and welcome to the Teaching Together podcast, where we celebrate and share the glows and grows of teacher life. I'm Grace.
And I'm Sierra. Each episode, we love to start by sharing a glow or grow. So, Grace, what is your glow or grow to share with us for this week?
Well, I hesitate because there are so many glows to choose from. Yay. That sounded really sarcastic. I promise it was genuine.
It did.
I do apologize. Yay. I have achieved proficiency. I don't know if I've actually said that on the podcast.
Yes, congratulations.
Thank you so much. The pay rise has not come in yet, but I am officially a real teacher, which is very exciting. I mean, it was a bit anticlimactic because I just got an email like in period 6 and was like, oh my goodness. And I immediately texted you. I was like, oh my goodness, look. And you were very encouraging and excited for me. Thank you so much.
It's always a pleasure.
What was really nice was the other teacher that I've been doing this whole process with got hers approved because I think our principal just submitted at the same time. And we were out on pickup and she was like, Grace, did you get an email? And I was like, oh my gosh, yes, did you get an email? And so that was very fun. That is definitely a glow. And the other glow that I have is, because I can never pick one, is it's a to-do list app. But I really like it. It's called Tick Tick.
Oh.
And actually ChatGPT recommended it to me. And I'm currently paying for it. But
that must mean that you actually think it's really valuable.
I think it's really valuable. What I love about it is that there's a built-in Eisenhower matrix.
Oh, yes, love that.
And I just really like the way it's set out. I like that you can make tags for stuff. I use it pretty much I have all these different lists for school stuff and then one for personal stuff. So it's really to help me remember to do things like swap home readers and mark home learning, which I always forget to do, and to post to Seesaw. But you can set reminders if you want. You can put habits in there. So it's got a separate habit tracker. There's a calendar version. You can choose like 3 different ways to display your to-do lists. It has a Pomodoro timer in there, which I totally forgot about until just now, now that
I do still use that from time to time.
Yes.
We did an episode that incorporated that quite a while ago.
I love the Pomodoro timer. It's got a countdown as well. So I've got my reports are due in 17 days. That's terrifying. The end of term 4 is in 36 days at the time of recording. And Sierra, there are 246 days until your birthday.
That is such a random thing to have in there.
No, it's not. I need to know when to buy you a gift.
Is it the one with the blue circle and the yellow tick? Is
Yes.
that the app? And do you have the app installed on your laptop or do you use it on your phone?
It has a web. I access it on Chrome on my laptop, and I have it on my phone as well. And I just find I also have it open. I've got it open on my 3 devices: my school laptop, my school iPad, and my phone.
And it syncs just across all of them?
It does.
I'm intrigued.
Pretty much I use the app in all 3 devices, possibly at least once in a lesson, because I'm like, have I done that? Have I done that? Have I done that? I just really like it. I mean, it's not that different to any other to-do list app, but it's the first one where I've gone, actually, this is going to be really helpful.
Okay.
Yeah, you can color code stuff. I just love it. And it has seriously changed my productivity in terms of just like quote unquote life admin or the little things that you have to do on top of your teaching job, like sending home learning and remembering to do random stuff. I really, really recommend. So thank you, ChatGPT, for recommending that to me. It's great. So those are both glows because I've been trying to get more organized this term, and I felt like I made some good progress in the holidays. Came back to term 4 quite energized. The Tick Tick is the app that it's TICK. We are not sponsored by it, but if Tick Tick wants to give me a free membership, then thank you. They will not, but thanks. Anywho, over to you, my friend. What is your glow/grow?
Yes, I think glow for me would just have to be getting started with my prac student this term.
Yes, I totally forgot about that.
It's been really good so far. Hi, Michaela, if you do end up listening, because
Hi, Michaela.
she did ask for a little shout out.
Yay!
And yeah, we're having a great time, I think, so far. Hopefully she feels the same way.
How could she not? You're amazing. I say totally unbiased.
We had a great lesson today with year 12 doing some citrus stamping, or I should actually probably say citrus printing, because it was all about teaching about printing on fabric. But we used limes and lemons and oranges to make cute little citrus prints.
Fun.
So that was great fun. Actually, I would have to say, okay, wait, my real glow of the term.
Oh,
so
yes.
I mean, so that's been great. But my other glow that's just popped into my mind that was like, how did I possibly forget about this? So I've been reprogramming this term as I go for year 8, which is a little bit stressful. And I would love to feel organised enough to just spend a few hours finishing off the term, but that's just not happening. So, yes, new 7 to 8 technology syllabus is all happening for me.
Oh, yes. Okay.
Anyway, this new unit, I'm just having so much fun. And I did an activity with year 8 last week where they first spent a lesson doing like a research kind of activity worksheet kind of thing, looking into the Australian dairy industry. Fun fact, as a teacher, I didn't know you could do this. Firstly, I don't have TikTok, but I found some TikToks. You know how sometimes if you look at it through the browser, like it'll just let you play TikToks. But sometimes it doesn't, because if my sister sends me one and it comes through my phone as a link, it doesn't let me watch it unless I download the app. And I'm like, no, I don't actually want to.
There's a reason I don't have it.
There's a reason I don't have it. Anyway, but I was able to find this TikTok account from this guy called Big Farmer Andy.
Big Farmer Andy?
I think it was Big Farmer Andy.
That's amazing.
Anyway, and he's a dairy farmer, and so he makes all these TikToks about his dairy farm. You can actually...
How does he have time to do that on top of being a dairy farmer?
Okay,
Come on, Andy.
Don't know.
Sorry.
But you can download TikToks and save them as MP4 files. I don't know if you knew that.
No, you cannot.
Yes, you can.
What?
Especially through the desktop Chrome. So I downloaded some of his fun TikToks about like what happens to the milk when it leaves the farm and stuff like that, and actually used it as like a hook for the start of my lesson. It was really fun. The kids were like thought that it was hilarious that I was showing them TikToks in my lesson. But what I liked about being able to download them was that I could put them on Google Classroom without like directing my students to TikTok.
Yeah, it's just the video, not
it's
the
just
link.
The video,
yeah.
So that was just a little side note win. But then once they did their research into the dairy industry, we made butter.
What?
In class. It was so fun. So I actually have a little butter churner, which I took in to show them like how it works. Because I grew up on Little House on the Prairie, if anybody even knows what that is. And I thought it was really cute. So I have one, but I don't use it very often. Anyway, but you can actually make butter just by like shaking cream in a jar for a prolonged period of time, and it will eventually just like turn into butter and buttermilk.
I've heard that.
Yeah. So
how long is prolonged period of time?
Okay, it probably took them like 20 minutes.
Oh, okay.
It also depends how warm your cream is. Like if it's just come out of the fridge, it'll take a little bit longer. But if it's been sitting at room temperature for a while, it can happen really fast. Anyway, so it was so fun. I got them in pairs and they poured themselves some cream into these little, like the little snack size, like Tupperware containers.
Yep.
We just had a bunch of those lying around. So yeah, they made butter and it was just really fun. I put some music on and some other students walked past and they were like, what is this dance party happening in here? Because they were all like shaking their little butter tubs. Anyway, it was so fun. They loved it. And honestly, it was such a glow for me to be able to see them. Okay, so I was trying really hard to incorporate some practical learning into this food unit because it's really hard because we don't actually have food tech or kitchens in our school. So teaching the food topic as part of 7 and 8 technology actually requires a little bit of creativity if you want it to be fun.
Yeah, yeah.
So anyway, I have just had a lot of fun thinking through that. And tomorrow, in real time, my prac student and I are going to do another little practical activity in our year 8 food lesson where we're going to do a competition between the two of us about whisking egg whites until they form like soft peaks, and then whisking aquafaba. Do you know what that is?
No.
It's like the water from a chickpea can.
Oh, okay. Yep.
And it can be used in a lot of desserts as like a vegan replacement for egg whites.
Really?
So we're going to do like a little competition at the front of the room, whisking our aquafaba and egg whites to see. I hope I'm saying aquafaba right. But anyway, someone feel free to correct me if I'm not. Yeah, and then seeing which one forms soft peaks first, and just as a fun little like demo for the kids.
Yeah.
So anyway, I have just really enjoyed having a creative outlet for that this term, and I've probably spent way too long on this topic. So last episode, if you haven't listened to it already, we unpacked the myth of teacher effectiveness, which was really just a good old rant about how initial teacher education is kind of being blamed at the moment for teacher attrition, and that teachers are leaving the profession because they're not effective. And I just think that was a really challenging idea, and it puts a lot of pressure on, I guess, initial teacher education programs and graduate teachers themselves, instead of actually considering more broadly some of the other implications and reasons for why teacher retention is such a challenge at the moment. Normally, we like to stay very positive here on our podcast.
Yes.
About teaching and education because we love it.
We do.
And it's full of glows.
Yes.
And grows.
Yes.
But if you are feeling a little bit worn down by some of the media and what people are saying about teaching, it might be a great episode for you to go back and have a listen to.
Today, we are talking about reports because at the time of recording, it is report season. We're in a report writing term. And I actually personally quite enjoy it. But we are going to have a think about some of the challenges when it comes to quantifying learning dispositions and like qualitative phrases and interpreting things that some people have a really clear idea on what that means, and other people are like, well, it could also mean this. And just some of the more grey areas or blurry areas of report writing. And we are going to share, each of us is going to share our number one top tip for report writing. So stay tuned for your minds to be blown and your lives to be changed forever, irrevocably, if you will. But first, it's time for tea. Sierra, what are you drinking?
I'm actually really excited to tell you.
I'm excited to hear it.
So I had a bunch of mint in my fridge that I didn't use by an appropriate date.
Oh, no.
And it just went dry and crunchy. So I just decided to crush up the leaves and put it in my tea strainer and make my own mint tea. And it is fantastic.
I'm so glad. I'm having a look. It looks minty.
It's got a beautiful flavour. It's like not as, well, it's more mint than like peppermint.
Yeah.
Which I guess I never was really sure exactly what the flavour difference was, but I can taste it.
Can you describe it? No?
It's a bit softer than real peppermint tea.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I'm going to leave it at that, but if you have some herbs or mint that you buy for a singular recipe and you know you're not going to use the rest of the bunch, just dry it out, crush it up. We've got some great minty tea there for you.
And you are a real one if you understand what I'm referencing when I say tea is just hot leaf juice. I will not be explaining that reference, but if you're laughing right now and smiling, we would be friends. I am drinking, it's either dessert or desert lime. I can never remember.
It's desert, but I think it's spelt, remember
it's got
how
two S's, doesn't it?
On the tin, it's spelt differently to what it's spelt on the website.
That is correct. I remember this now. Okay, so it's desert lime and lemon myrtle. It is really good tea. Anywho,
onwards and upwards.
And upwards. Before we jump into the nitty-gritty of what we really want to talk about with reports, I thought it would be helpful just to highlight what a report is for. And if you were like me, you may not have known that reports are governed by the Commonwealth Government under the Australian Education Regulations 2023. And Regulation 59 is called Student Reports. And as an ex-law student for 18 months, I was like, oh my gosh, I get to read some legislation. Anyway, so basically this says what our responsibilities are as reporters and we need to write a report for every student, yes. But it is actually specified in this legislation that a report must be, quote, readily understandable to a person responsible for a student at the school, end quote. And that person responsible would be their primary caregiver that the report is going to. So I just thought that was interesting that that is actually specified, that they don't, like the Commonwealth government is saying you need to write reports twice a year at least, but also you need to write reports that the caregiver of that student can understand, which I just didn't realise. And I think is really helpful. And if you're an experienced teacher, you obviously know this. But it's just helpful to remember that even though we're professionals, you know, writing about, you know, syllabus dot points and outcomes and grades and things, we're communicating that information to parents who likely work in very varied fields and don't understand what all our lingo means. So yeah, I just thought that was really helpful and interesting that that's actually like regulated.
Yeah. I think I knew somewhere along the lines that it was regulated, that it wasn't just schools deciding that this is a fantastic idea and we should make everyone endure it multiple times a year. But I did not realize it was a like federal level legislation. So there you go. That's very interesting.
Every day is a school day.
Every day is a school day.
Wise person once said. Anyway, so having gotten that out of the way, that will just keep that in mind. That will frame how we talk about reports. But I thought we'd start by looking at something that Sierra raised when we were having a think about, okay, what are we going to talk about in this report writing episode? And you were saying that you actually have to report on whether students have a positive attitude to learning. And we were like, okay, what does that mean? So what have you been thinking as you've been trying to do these reports?
Yeah, it's tricky because I guess what often comes to my mind is like whether a student has a attitude that's like enthusiastic. Are they the type of person who is keen to ask and answer questions? Are they someone who regularly completes their work, that kind of thing. But as I was doing my reports this back end of the year, it's made me really consider, like, I don't want my quieter, more reserved students to be disadvantaged because they don't ooze enthusiasm in my classroom. And, you know, it's just been on my mind a little bit to think about, well, what could I quantify a positive attitude as? And you know, someone who always completes their tasks on time may not have a positive attitude to their learning either. Maybe they're just doing the bare minimum and ensuring that it's completed, but maybe they're actually way more capable and they're not really extending themselves. Is that what a positive attitude is? Like, yeah, it's just something I've been pondering over a little bit more recently. And I think I was saying to Grace earlier that I'm really thankful that my school's reporting process is actually quite simple and straightforward. Other schools I've worked in have been a lot more tedious and a lot more time consuming. But I think I still really pore over some of the decisions I make, even if it is kind of a ticker box type decision, you know, where you're deciding if someone is demonstrating a positive attitude, you know, consistently or usually or sometimes or rarely, you know, those kinds of drop down boxes that I have to choose from. You know, I think I still really wrestle with some of those decisions because I want to know that I could confidently defend my decision if it was questioned. And so it's something that I really think about, but it is hard to quantify. And, you know, if little Johnny doesn't come into my classroom with a smile on his face, does that mean he doesn't have a positive attitude to learning? Well, I don't think so, but maybe that's actually how I've been gauging it.
Yeah, because that's the easiest. And it takes time to figure out some of those quieter students. Like it took me like 3 terms to figure out that one of my students was actually, her literacy skills were actually quite weak because she was just copying the kids next to her and I just didn't realize. Which I maybe shouldn't be admitting. Anyway, but your school might have something different, you the listener out there in the world, hello, your school might have something different but similar in terms of different like learning dispositions or student behaviors. I say it all the time, my school does the habits of mind. Some of them are about being positive and whatnot, but we've got a list of 5 things you could look for potentially if you're trying to quantify, you know, what is a positive attitude to learning. We're using this as a case study, if you will, a concrete example. But if there's a particular phrase that you're like, how do I actually report on this? Perhaps this might be a helpful exemplar for you. But if we're looking at a positive attitude to learning, does the student start tasks quickly? Like within 2 minutes? Are they sitting on their iPad with it on the home screen and you get to them half an hour later and go, what have you been doing this whole time? Or are they getting on with their work without you needing to prompt them incessantly? Do they ask clarifying questions to improve their work? I love that one because it shows ownership over their work, which some of the habits of mind that I have to report on look at that. But if they've got a positive attitude to learning, they actually care about getting it right, but not in terms of, oh, I'm just going to use the calculator and get the correct answer, but I want the process to be right and I want to understand it as the student. I think that's really helpful. Acting on feedback. That is so huge. And Sierra is the queen of whatever that thing is called that I always forget the name of. What is it called? Delayed feedback?
Oh.
It's not, but it's something.
Now I can't think of the word for it either.
We've talked about it so often.
We have.
And
it's basically when you give the feedback before you give the grade.
Which I've seen in so many other areas. And I'm like, my friend Sarah came up with that.
No, she didn't.
No, she did not. But that is how you exist in my mind. But yes, acting on feedback also shows that students have a healthy view of learning, which would be, I would say, positive. I think possibly acting on feedback might be one of the biggest indicators, you tell me if you agree or not, about if you've got a positive attitude to learning. Because if you want to improve and if you're also not afraid of getting feedback, that shows me that you've got a positive attitude to learning. What would you think?
Well, I think that's valid because also that's probably why I've structured my approach to returning of tasks in that particular way, because so often in my previous experiences, students were not engaging with their feedback, and therefore that's a detriment to their learning and also displayed like quite an apathetic attitude. So I guess if you sort of go, well, the opposite would be to take the time to engage with the feedback and actually think about how that impacts their learning moving forward, that shows a much more positive approach and positive attitude towards their learning. So I think that's valid. Interestingly, in the learning behaviors that I have to report on, responding to feedback is actually its own category. So I think normally for me when I'm reporting, I kind of keep those ideas separate. Because I have to comment on them separately. But I would agree with you. I think if they weren't separated, by default, I think a student's response to feedback, their willingness to seek it and act on it and implement it is a huge indicator of their attitude towards their learning. Totally.
Yeah, it shows maturity, shows, autonomy, ownership of their learning. And this number 4 on this list is possibly what I would perceive as the biggest indicator ahead of acting on feedback is persisting after an error. If you can persist after an error, I mean, I am the kind of person, side anecdote, it's very related. Because I'm the best girlfriend ever, I went hyperkarting. I don't know if I've actually told you about this.
No, and I actually don't even know what it is.
Okay, so hyperkarting is go-karting, but very fast.
Okay.
And there's a special track, and you've got to wear a helmet and all this crazy stuff. And because I'm a great girlfriend, I went because my wonderful boyfriend was like, hey, we're going to go with my friend and his fiance and blah, blah, blah. And this is so up his alley. Like, this is so his speed. I totally understand why he enjoys it. But I was very bad. I thought I would be quite bad. I was very slow, and I was trying so hard not to be a hazard. But I was really, I wish I had L plates or something just to go. I've literally never done this before. And by the last lap, I was in tears because I was so bad.
No.
And I was so bad that people kept running into me, and I knew it wasn't their fault. Like, I knew it was my fault. And I was not persisting after my error. And it was too fast. I was very stressed the entire time. It was just awful. And I got out. I also accidentally did one extra lap than I was supposed to because I couldn't figure out where the pit lane was to leave. And so I'm like, I'm trapped. I don't know where to go. Oh, it was just awful. It was awful. And I was just really bad. And I got out and just... and my boyfriend was like, are we going again? And I immediately just burst into tears, sobbing. He's like, oh my gosh. Like, he was so patient. He consoled me. He was fine. And then he went on he went again with all the other people that we were there with. And I just was standing on the sidelines like, I'm very bad at this. So, and he was like, is this a hard no? Like, we're never going to do this again? And I was like, this is a hard no. We're never going to do this again. I was not persisting after my error. And it's so funny and so sad because he was having so much fun. He was very good. And he, gave me a wave every time he passed me, and I was like, I'm not that good. Anywho, I do bring that up for a reason. The reason being that persisting after an error, again, personally to me and in my learning journey, as a learner and a teacher, that shows to me that you care about your learning and you actually care about developing your skills as a learner rather than just getting the task right. Like, it shows quite a presence of mind in students to go, okay, this isn't about this task right now in the moment. I mean, it is, but it's also about who am I as a learner and am I willing to have another go? Like, persistence is important in so many areas of life. And yeah, I think that shows to me that's the greatest indicator, in my professional opinion, of a positive attitude to learning, because it means, okay, a mistake is not the end. I haven't, I'm not a failure as a human. That way just didn't work, which I think is quite helpful and healthy. And then very quickly, before I ask for your opinion, Sarah, if you've got a positive attitude to learning, you're sharing your thinking in whatever way that your lesson requires. Could be verbal, written, visuals, whatever, which... I mean, that shows they're engaged, they care. But you tell me, because this is something you actually have to report on. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think this is another one that by default I sort of bring to mind. Like, there's always the classic maybe 4 or 5 in each of my classes who will just be absolutely keen to answer almost every question.
Yes, the Hermione Grangers.
Yeah. And, I understand why people use the paddle pop sticks, why people use the name spinners, why people use a whole range of different strategies. I have experimented with those in the past. I haven't consistently drawn on one. I have at various points in my teaching career so far implemented a no hands up classroom.
Yeah.
And everybody just being prepared to answer. I've done whiteboards. I've done a whole range of different things. I think being more predominantly teaching in technology at the moment, just by default, means that we're doing so much more practical work and learning that I don't really feel like having a consistent, we always use whiteboards or we always, use paddle pops is particularly helpful or applicable to my context a lot. But yeah, I don't know. There's other things like, sometimes, and I don't know, you may not see this very much in your younger students. A lot of my high schoolers will actually have an IEP for their anxiety. And one of the things that I'm supposed to do as their teacher to help differentiate for them is not call on them or not ask them to share their thinking.
Yep.
And that's a really tricky one for me, because if someone isn't prepared to share their thinking because they're anxious, I need to be able to create other ways for them to engage, which is fine. But, that then just probably doesn't pop to my mind as immediately when I'm coming to do reports about, who are my positive question answerers or who are my positive contributors to class discussion. It might be those same 4 or 5 who are just happy to have a go at anything. And so, yeah, I just think sharing thinking is a tricky one because we ask our students to share their thinking in lots of different ways. But I think when you sort of close your eyes and imagine your class in your classroom, the most easiest one for us to recall is who do we see putting their hand up?
Yeah.
To share their thinking, as opposed to those who you might be, maybe you do call on them and they're happy to share something, but they haven't volunteered that.
Yes.
And then maybe in other ways through written tasks or, other tools, they're still engaging with their learning, probably positively and in the way that you're asking them to. But because they don't have that enthusiastic, yes, I want to share my answer with everybody response, it's just not as easily ingrained in my mind.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think this is what I'm coming back to is like, okay, I can't just assume that my 4 or 5 Hermione Grangers are the only ones with a positive attitude or an enthusiastic approach to their learning. There are other ways to show interest and focus and attentiveness without wanting to dominate every class discussion.
Yes. I think the art of being a good teacher is being able to, rely on volunteers at sometimes draw or pick people, use the paddle pop stick method or whatever. Sometimes I ask for people who want to share their thinking. If I've just picked on some poor students, then I'll go, okay, I won't do that again. I won't double up on that. But I think, being a good teacher is about knowing, okay, I can push these students here, but maybe now it's more appropriate just to, if this isn't as important an activity, I'll pick some volunteers. Or I know that this student needs some prompting to actually pay attention and think. I'm going to randomly call on them and put them on the spot this one time to go, hey, hello, I can see that you're zoning out. And I'm trying to work on that. As you were talking, I'm picturing all my kiddos on the floor or in a circle and thinking, okay, I definitely know which ones are the hands up. And I do lots of we call it the secret thumb. I stole this from one of my colleagues. I might have talked about it before on this show, but I try not to do hands up as often because it's very obvious to everyone in the room. Sometimes I say, put your hands on your head if you want to share something, or maybe put your finger on your nose if you knows the answer. I'm so punny. I don't think my kindergarten children actually understand why that's hilarious.
Well, I think it's hilarious.
Thank you. And sometimes I'll get them to, the secret thumb is just literally hold your thumb up close to your chest. So theoretically, only I can see it.
Yeah, I like that.
Which, is still students are still volunteering to do that, but it's less of a, hey, my hand is up and everyone can see that I'm super excited to share.
Yeah.
And
that actually ties in really well. Sorry. How sometimes you'll see a kid who kind of puts their hand halfway up and it's kind of are you scratching your face?
Oh my gosh, yes.
And then often they'll say, oh yeah, no, don't worry.
No, don't pick me.
And maybe they were just scratching their face, but maybe they backed out and then they weren't really sure. And I actually kind of like that. It's a bit, they're not showing everybody that they've got an answer, or there's an element of confidence with putting your hand right up in the air.
Yes.
I am 100% sure that I know the answer to this. And the hand goes right up and it's stretching as far as it possibly can and the fingers start wriggling.
Oh my gosh, the wriggling fingers trigger me.
Or clicking.
No,
and,
get away from me.
So there's, that also, that whole culture around hands up also sort of speaks to kids that, you have to be really confident in your answer to want to share it.
I'm just thinking of if I was to type in engaged students in classroom in Google Images, I would get a class full of kids with their hands up.
Hands right up, stretching them right up there. Yeah, I actually really love that idea because I feel like that speaks that okay, you're volunteering a response, but not everyone has to know. And it's okay if you're actually not super confident in it. Like, but you'd be prepared to share your thoughts.
Yes, and I haven't had anyone, like any of my students go, no, I'm not sharing anything with the secret thumb, or any of the other indicators, like hands on heads and stuff like that. Sometimes I just say, put your hands on your ears so I can tell that they're listening and, shake it up a bit. But the thumbs up, that really, I'm just thinking of my spread of students, and often I'll get lots of kids and I can go, okay, who's the one I haven't called on? Anyway, we are actually nearing the end of this fantastic episode. I'm sure you are as devastated as we are. But before we conclude, we thought we'd give you something super practical. If you're thinking, like Sierra was, about, okay, I now know what I'm looking for when I'm measuring whether a student has a positive attitude to learning. How can I then chart that or graph that or track that so that I have some data to report on, and you've got consistent data across the term? Well, we have an idea for you. Maybe you've got a paper planner, you've got that bit at the back that has the like assessment data bit, and you've got the student names at the top and then the assessment down the side, and you just like write their grade in or ticket or whatever. Basically, you have a list of all your students. You pick the observable indicators of a positive attitude for learning or whatever a phrase you're trying to report on. And you pick a certain number of students to do each day, lesson, period. It will depend on, obviously, how your classes are structured if you're a high school teacher, if you're a primary school teacher. In my primary school context, I would basically pick, okay, the first 4 students on the roll, I'm going to observe you for these indicators of you start your tasks quickly, you use feedback, you persist, and you share your thinking. Are you doing that? Can I see that? If I see that you've done that today, tick, amazing. And I would look at them all day and just do that quickly at the end of the day. And then just do 4 kids every day for 5 days. I've got 20 kids in my class, done. How would you do that in a senior context?
Yeah, I was just thinking, like, my classroom is basically broken up into like workbenches where you got 5 or 6 students at a bench. So I would probably focus my attention on like maybe a table group per lesson, or in reality, I feel like maybe I'd actually have to do more than one table group in a lesson when you consider that I only see them for 2 hours a week.
Yeah.
Most of my classes, except for my seniors. And so I think even just in one lesson, looking at maybe 2 or 3 table groups. And I don't use a paper planner, as we're all quite aware. And so I think, for me, this is why I've been relying on my brain and kind of like the images that come to my mind of when I think about my class and the student's name, what sort of comes to mind. So I think maybe having some sort of cheat sheet. I feel like I'd have to do it in week 3, week 6 and week 9 of the term or something like that to get a broad enough scope of consistent data, because I'm not with them all day, every day.
Yeah.
And there's so many students to just keep track of and be aware of. I think I teach like 140 kids or something. So there's a lot. But maybe it would depend on the activity too. And if I'm doing, every time I stop and make give a set of instructions, then I might go in my mind, okay, after this set of instructions, I'm going to monitor this group.
Yeah.
And just watch that and then move on to the next group the next time I give a set of instructions. So that way I might be able to knock out a couple in a single lesson. And if I know that, hey, in this lesson, I want to collect some data on this thing, that's doable.
Also, very quickly, you could, if you were so inclined, you could rephrase this and get kids to do a self-reflection.
Oh, I really loved this. Yes.
And I'm thinking, because I will be teaching Year 2 next year, oh my goodness, so exciting. You could do like once every fortnight or once every week or once every month, whenever you wanted to do it, give kids a quick exit slip where you've got 4 ticker boxes or however many you want with your indicators, like and in student-friendly language. For example, using our example of positive attitude to learning, you could say, today did I start quickly? Tick. Did I use feedback? Did I keep trying? Did I share my ideas? And then students know what you're looking for. Because like, again, at my school with Habits of Mind, we make those explicit to the students. And that is helpful because We want them to develop those dispositions. And how can you develop what you don't know?
And so in the same way, we want them to develop a positive attitude to the learning. Like students are people learn for their whole lives, right? Like,
yes, sorry to tell you.
Regardless of whether you're going to pursue tertiary education or finish school in year 10 and go onto a different context or whatever you're doing, we learn things and have to like adapt to life around us, like always, forever, sometimes frustratingly so. So like we don't want our students to be walking out of school with just a really negative attitude to learning and thinking how good that I'll never have to do that again.
Yeah.
So, I mean, for me, it's such a core value to make sure that my students actually develop skills of being a good learner that is transferable to any context.
Like if you want students to be self-reflective on these things, especially if you're like with time management, if you've got a student that just does not care about starting and you're like, get off the homepage of your iPad.
Pick up your pencil.
You might be able to say, I need you to start within 2 minutes of me giving the instructions. Like I personally respond quite well to concrete parameters like that. Maybe you've got a student who responds well to that. And just knowing that you value these things like persistence and using feedback and contributing. And they're going, okay, so this is what a good learner looks like. Now I know. Hopefully they care about being a good learner. If they don't care, well, then this isn't going to work. But it'll be nice for us. Anywho, I think we've reached the end of this episode.
Oh, we did say we would share our very top tips, though.
Oh, my gosh.
We need to come back around to this.
Yes. Okay. So I know that Sierra has one that she has been dying to tell everyone.
I am dying.
So please.
Yes. Okay.
Do not pass away.
Okay.
Please tell us.
I will not hesitate a moment longer. When I was a teacher's aide, the very first school I worked at, each year during sort of reporting season, we would dedicate a couple of our staff meetings to like just rehashing the style guide and stuff, which it is at this point worth noting that every school will have their own flair, their own style, their own way they want to write things. And so regardless of whether you're a brand new teacher or you're a super experienced teacher in a new place, it's so important for you to get your head around what is normal and what is acceptable and what is a good comment in this context, because I can assure you that a good comment in one context is not always seen as a good comment in another.
Yes.
Anyway, even it can come down to just like who is responsible for editing the reports. Like I've been in a school before where one year it was like the deputy and then the next year it was like head of academics or something because like roles changed and it was just like totally different expectations and things that I was told to correct one year were then like incorrect the next year. You know, it was just, it was a bit funky. Anyway, the very, very first style guide sort of meeting that I ever sat through, the principal, who was an English teacher, gave this fantastic way to remember which practice to use when you're writing.
The eternal struggle.
You can write practice with an S and practice with a C, and they actually mean different things. And it can be hard to remember which one is which. Now, if you're a super English nerd like Grace, it's actually not very hard to remember that one's a verb and one's a noun.
Come on, guys.
If you're not a super English nerd like me, you might find this hack super helpful. So if you're writing a comment and you want to use the word, Grace should practice her long division.
She should.
I don't think long division is even really a thing these days, but
praise the Lord.
In that case, you're actually asking her to revise her long division. And so if you're using the word practice in the sense that it's revising, revise ends in ISE. And so you use the practice that ends in ISE. But if you're referring to practice as in your pedagogical practice or something that's like, that's not something I'm like revising, that's just like part of what I do, then it's the ICE practice. And that has saved me a million times. Literally every time I write the word practice, I go revise, practice, yes. And if they're interchangeable in the sentence, if you would swap out practice, ISE for revise, then you know you've got the right one.
Which honestly makes more sense than my verb/noun, but I like being a grammar Nazi, so it's a verb/noun. And I'll just let you know that the verb is practice with ISE and the noun is practice ICE. You're welcome. My top tip really is just something that I've only done this semester, which is I started really early at the beginning of the term and just am writing literally one report comment for one student every day until they're due, which I can do because I only have 20 students to write report comments for and not 140.
Yes.
So, yeah, and I have to do indicators and habits of mind and outcomes and all that sort of stuff. But I find that in my brain, just focusing on one student for that one day helps me not conflate things and get confused. And also, it only means I have to carry one student's data home. I try and do it before I go home at the end of the day because now that I'm kind of in the swing of it takes me about half an hour per student.
I mean, your comments are far more substantial than what I have to write because you're commenting actually on a broader range of things.
I write 300 words per student.
Words?
Words, not characters, words. Yes. And I, as we have established, am a grammar nerd and I really enjoy writing and I love being able to show that I care about my students. But anyway, those are our top tips. You're welcome. Your life has changed. There will forever henceforth be the before you knew these tips and the after of these tips. Welcome to the after. Can you tell it's 9:00 on a school night? So, as usual, we're on all the socials and leave us a review if you feel so inclined. 5 stars or nothing. I don't want to hear any ones. I don't want any criticism. I don't wish to improve in any way.
That's really not showing a very positive attitude to your learning there,
No, it's
Grace.
not. I thought we already established this. I will cry and then never go back. And in saying all of that, thank you so much for listening. We've had a great time.
Bye.